Jeff Hafley said all along that he doesn't want to live in the transfer portal, but this offseason seems like it's going to be a little different as BC is in desperate need of figuring out how to add depth and talent to a program that went 3-9 and looks to be one of the worst programs in the ACC right now. We'll look at what positions Hafley should prioritize in the transfer portal. I'm going to give you a ranking and rating system for each position. And we'll tell you a little bit about that and more on today's Locked On BC.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello out there and welcome. This is Locked On BC, the only daily Boston College podcast out there. We do it every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of 247's Eagle Insider. Make sure to check out my work there as well. Now, there isn't a lot. Unfortunately, BC is done for the year. Well, for some of you, you're going to say it's unfortunate, but for others, you're cheering because this was one of the worst seasons you've ever had to watch, and I get that. It was terrible in all aspects, but there's no bowl game. Now BC is focused heavily on the transfer portal. It's been quiet. I'm going to admit, I said all along that this was a time of year where it would be pretty busy, and we haven't seen the movement that I've expected from BC. Only 4 players are currently in the transfer portal. It's a period of time, so it's from December 5th to mid-January. I expect more to get in there. But today's episode isn't about the guys outgoing. This is looking at the program right now, looking at where Jeff Hafley has the depth and talent on this roster, and giving a rating. For today's episode, it'll be a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being they're pretty good there. They don't really need a lot of help, to 3 being they could use some help, to 5 being red alert. You need to get help immediately. And we're going to go offense, defense, and I'll even talk a little special teams about what I think BC needs to do. Now, I'm gonna give you a warning right now. Some of you are listening to this and going, AJ, just say 5 for everything. This is a stupid conversation. Let's be realistic here. You can't just uproot this entire roster, right? You can't just go out there and kick kids off that are on scholarship. As much as it's annoying, that there's guys that maybe you don't want to play here or whatever. Remember, they're there for education too. So there's guys that are going to be there. And Hafley's not going to have 25 transfer spots to fix this. He's going to have a certain amount, and with numbers, it's hard to tell what he's going to have and how many graduate students leave and go someplace else. But he's not going to have an unlimited amount of scholarships. You can't just go and fix this and get new players at every position, because it's not feasible. It's not something that's going to happen. So for this, the purpose of this exercise, I get you if you want to say 5 for everything, but I'm not going to do that. But we'll start this off. Let's kick this off and talk about the tight end position. Here in your picture, you see right there, George Takis. He still has eligibility left based off of my conversation with BC. I don't know if he had an injury at one point. I had to look at his stats, what year he might have missed, but his eligibility is not worn out yet. Now, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would put this at about a 4, because I'm concerned about the depth at tight end next year. You have Takis hurt. We don't know if he's coming back yet or not. You have Jeremiah Franklin, who they thrust out there pretty quickly, and he looked like a tight end that was thrust out there pretty quickly. They need some veteran talent to go out there with Takis. Now, Hans Lillis looked okay. I thought he was okay. Spencer Witter, I'm not sure if he'll play with BC again. He didn't seem to have much of a role this year. But I think this team they need to add to this, especially when you're doing, if McNulty's going to be the offensive coordinator next year, and all signs say he is right now, you're going to be doing a pro style offense. You need tight ends out there. So they need to go out there. One name to watch for, and I'm going to give you these throughout the day, is Louis Hansen, a tight end from, I think he's from BB&N. He's at Michigan right now. He's in the transfer portal. He was a guy that BC targeted. He was a 4-star. He's 6'4", so he's a little smaller than the tight ends BC likes to play with. But he might be willing to come back home. I saw a crystal ball in there for UMass, but he just followed me on Twitter, so I'm sure he might have some interest in BC. So I will give a 4 to tight end because I think it's important. Next, wide receiver. And this is a tough one to grade because there's a lot of question marks of what's going on here. We don't know what's going on with Jaden Williams. We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know if Lewis Bond is hurt or if he was involved in something that made him disappear like Jaden Williams. And I'm not getting into whatever that is. But if those two guys are gone, you're losing Zay Flowers definitely. There's a potential that you're going to lose Jalen Gill, excuse me. That's 4 wide receivers you're down. You're bringing in 2 with Nate Johnson and the kid from CM, who I don't have his name in front of me, and Jaden Skeet. Couldn't think of his name for a second there. You need to get some more depth there. I'm going to put this one as a 4 as well. I think BC needs to go out there and get some wide receiver depth. And I don't know who you want to go for. But I've seen BC linked to some wide receivers already. I've seen them going out there and looking. Actually, I'm going to give them a 3 here because I don't see BC going really super hard at this because they're going to still have next year they will have Joseph Griffin, Dino Tomlin, Tajee Johnson, and Dante Reynolds. It's between a 3 and a 4 for me for wide receiver. I think it's something that they should definitely look into if they can find a guy that fits their scheme. Next, that's my defense. Oh, so we'll go back. I had pictures up, and I thought I put more offensive pictures, but I apparently did not. Quarterback. I'm going to put this as a 2. If there's a guy out there that can give you quality depth behind Emmett Moorhead, go for it. If you can get a stud that's going to uproot Emmett Moorhead, go for it too. I mean, you got to win next year. I don't care if you hurt feelings. If you can get a guy that can come in here and make you a contender, you go out there and do it. But should it be a priority? No. BC is if Hafley is to be believed, he's got his guys in there now. So Peter Delaportis will be a redshirt freshman next year. You're going to have Matt Weave, who will be a junior. You'll have Emmett Moorhead, who will be a sophomore. You should have the depth. It's not established depth, but you should get it. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to go out there and get a guy that probably won't project to be anything better than them. But if you can find a guy, go for it. I have not seen BC being very aggressive recently in the transfer portal looking at quarterbacks. So I don't think it's something that they're going to really address. Now, running back, I'm going to put this as a 3. But with the caveat that this is the position I've seen BC going craziest in the transfer portal. This doesn't mean that they've been offering a ton of running backs, but my gosh, I've seen tons of coaches connecting with tons of running backs in the transfer portal. Like, it seems like BC's coaching staff is connected with every single running back that you can find out there. So it's something they're looking at, and I don't know if Pat Garwo's coming back. It looks like it. He had a cryptic tweet out the other day that looked like something about him returning. But Alex Sinkfield's leaving. I don't know what's going on with Cam Barfield and his injuries. I don't know if they have any, behind those 3 guys, you have Barfield, Broom, and you have Garwo. Not sure what Jaden Dontrell Jones is going to be like, but you need to build some depth there. You definitely need to build some depth there. And getting a guy that can run would be perfect for them. So I think a running back is going to be a 3, but that being said, I think it's a 5 in the staff's eye right now. Now, offensive line, I'm going to give that a 1. I don't think they need to do anything about the offensive line. I'm kidding. All right, the offensive line is a 5, 5, 5, 5. It's a 10. This is a 10. BC's got to figure something out here. And this is a position that derailed the entire season, as we said, right? They need to get talent there. They need to get better fast because they cannot go through what they went through this year with that group. They're going to have next year, it's a question mark who's coming back. Christian Mahogany, we still don't know what's going on with him, but he would be a great guard to add. I think Ozzy Trapillo will probably take a step up next year. Drew Kendall will probably take a step up. Kevin Klein, and then honestly, I really don't want to see the other guys that have played get starting minutes. I don't. Those are the only guys that I want to see out there and fill in other spots. Get yourself a tackle, get yourself a guard, figure this out in the offense in the transfer portal. Jude Bowery, Otto Hess, I'm thinking they're probably at least a year away. But even if they're ready, you want depth there. You need depth. You don't need to go into another season with, converted defensive linemen playing offensive line. You do not need that. So BC needs to go out there and get somebody. And this is 5 with stars written all over it. This is so big for the Eagles. I think that's the key one. Now, in a moment, we'll check out the defense. And there's some positions I think that they definitely need to look at. We'll get into that in a moment. Now, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So, sign up and add your job in the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs at #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On BC here, AJ Black. If you have not done so already, I've said this all along. You want to give me a Christmas present? You want to, celebrate the holidays the best way that I know how to? Hit that subscribe button on YouTube right now. If you are listening to this live, hit the like button as well. The likes help people find my podcast, and the subscriptions help push my site and my podcast up the rankings. I would love your help with this. If you can do this, it would be a huge, huge help. But I'm not just going to ask for things. I'm giving you stuff here today. I'm giving you the rankings of where I think BC needs to go in the transfer portal, where BC needs to spend their resources. And now we're going to turn to the defensive side of the ball, a group that had an up and down part of the season. And they're going to have some big names to fill in. They need some help here on this defensive side, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. Now, first of all, let's look at the secondary. Do they need help in the defensive backfield? Absolutely. This was the biggest surprise, and I'm going to give this a 5. BC last year lost so much in terms of depth between the transfers to start the year. You lost Sean Asbury. You had Sean Gates never even make it to the team. Then you have guys getting hurt. You lose CJ Burton. You lose Jalen Cheek. You got guys going down left and right. And then you're down to, you're scraping the bottom of your depth chart by the end of that year. BC has to add depth here. That was the craziest thing to me, is because when Jeff Hafley got here, what was the biggest critique of some of his early recruiting classes? There were too many defensive backs. Now he doesn't have enough. He's got to go out there and do it. And he is out there. This is a 5 for me. He has to go out there and get some help. And the big name that I've seen recently, there's a couple. There's a kid from Harvard. I think his name is Alex Williams. He's a grad student, all Ivy League, but but if you're looking for depth, that's great. That's fine. Donovan McMillan is a name that I just saw. They offered a safety out of the University of Florida on Wednesday. Really interested in see what their thoughts are there. But you have next year, Jaden Woodbay is gone. He's headed to the East-West Shrine Bowl and the Hula Bowl, it sounds like, and he won't be back. On the other side, you'll have Cole Batson. But after that, you have Steve Lubisher, who has only played limited snaps, and he will be returning. I have a source that could tell me that. But you need to get some depth there. You need to get some guys to challenge, because if it's going to be Lubisher, you're probably going to want a guy to challenge him and Batson, to be honest, at camp. You need guys to challenge each other. That's what, steel sharpens steel. And these guys need to get more depth there. Now, there's other guys that we've heard about, but I'm not even sure what's going on with them. Jameer Jones, a former wide receiver, they moved to safety. He didn't play at all this year. They need to fight Sione Hala, who I think they're going to have at linebacker, it looks like, based off of the depth charts I've seen. But safety is a big one, and the quarterbacks. And BC has been very, very busy. In the previous segment, I said the running back position was the position I've seen in offensive line. I think the three biggest I've seen is offensive line, running back, and safety. Those seem to be where BC is putting a ton of their focus on. So I'm going to give that a 5. Next, defensive line. Defensive line's interesting because it looks like BC has at least 2, possibly 3 starting defensive linemen that I think people should be pretty content with moving into next year. That would be Donovan Nazaraku, not Sheeta Salah, Nito Ekpala, and Edwin Kalengi, who's a true freshman and looked pretty good in limited snaps. All of these kids, I think, are going to develop. And there are 3 guys I think they hit home runs with. I think they're going to be really fun to watch them develop. I don't know what their upside is. I mean, Ezaraku had 8.5 sacks. He was good. You're losing, however, Marcus Valdez. We don't know what's going on with Sheeta Salah. And then you look at the defensive tackle position. Chibuzi Nwuka's leaving. And I'm not sure where else some of these other depth guys are going. There's guys that are technically done and graduated. They could all enter the portal too. I'm going to give this a 2. I think this is a position, if you get a guy that fits your scheme, that you think looks good, that you could do some things with, I think BC could definitely explore that. And to be honest and to be frank, BC has been targeting some defensive linemen because I think Jeff Hafley really likes depth on his defensive line. Say what you will about this season, and you can say whatever you want because it was awful. But the defensive line, for the most part, I mean, you look at the Pro Football Focus grades. This isn't my opinion. The Pro Football Focus grades, I put them up on Eagle Insider. It's all defensive linemen that are at the top, and they have good grades. It's not like everyone's bad. They're all green, so they're good. There was 6 defensive linemen up there. They've got some good talent, I think. And then our final position to look at is linebacker. And I'm going to give this a 2 as well. And it's more just a logistical thing here because BC has a lot of linebackers. They don't need that. Depth at linebacker was an issue this year. It was talent, and I don't see them pushing out Bryce Steele or Cam Arnold to get a guy to come here. And in fact, I don't think I've seen BC really involved in any linebackers. I just haven't seen it. Now they definitely have to play better. That was a bad position this year. But when you look at depth next year, you're going to have Cam Arnold, Vinny DePalma. I'm stunned still has eligibility left. This guy feels like he's been here for 8 years. He can come back. You have Jalen Blackwell. You have Bryce Steele. Davian Crouch is still waiting. Owen McGowan. You've got the talent there. Honestly, it's a group that you want to see play better, but there's guys there that you're expecting to take that next step. In the grand scheme of things, I don't see them making a big move at defensive line. I mean, at linebacker. I think this will be one position that they probably punt. So I'm going to put this as a 2. Now, in our final segment, we're going to wrap things up and talk about special teams and just some final thoughts on where BC sits in the transfer portal. We'll get to that in just a moment. Now, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every sports, professional, and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we got it all at BetOnline.net. I'm telling you, folks, if you want to go bet, I mean, look at what BC basketball has been like. You find those games. I know there's only a few left, but the Stonehill game, and find out what that odds are, and it's going to be something bloated. Bet against BC because this team cannot put anybody away. And it seems like easy money, and you can make easy money if you head on over to BetOnline. So if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Folks, if you're listening to this podcast, and there's a lot of you out there right now that are listening, Eagle Insider is the place to go. We have right now for new subscribers, and if you have a monthly subscription, you can upgrade too. You can get 50% off a yearly subscription to Eagle Insider, and special promo right now, you can get Paramount Plus as part of that. Now think about that. You're getting the entire year for about $50, and you're going to get Paramount Plus with the new Top Gun movie coming out. This is like a slam dunk deal. You can't miss this one. Go to Eagle Insider right now, sign up. I'm giving you transfer portal news. I'm talking about recruiting, basketball, baseball. We got Mitch in there doing his film analysis. It's tons of good stuff. Head over to Eagle Insider, sign up today. Give yourself a quick little Merry Christmas present or Happy Hanukkah present by signing up at Eagle Insider and get that Paramount Plus too. It's a great service. I think you'll like it. Now, we're wrapping things up here at Locked On BC. We're talking about the transfer portal, and I'm looking at special teams, a position that was a mess. It was an unmitigated disaster this year between kicking that regressed, punting that was inconsistent, mistakes. Coaching was a mess there. It felt like it was back to the Adazio days with all the mistakes and issues that came along with special teams, and it cost them games. It just did. So when I'm looking at this team, though, is there room to bring in more guys? I don't think they necessarily need to. Kickers and punters, I feel like are guys that come right out of high school and you can just plug in. I mean, look at like BT Potter and Rodrigo Blankenship. They came in as true freshmen and played right away, right? So you can just go out there and get true freshmen and not have to deal with transfer portal stuff. So I'm going to put this as a 1. Like, honestly, folks, like, I think Sam Candotti will be your punter next year. You're going to have that Aussie rules punting. I don't know what's going on with Litton, but you also have Liam Connor there, and I believe they have another kicker coming in. So you have enough there. And then in terms of like, long snappers and stuff, that's all preferred walk-ons and under the radar recruiting type stuff anyway. So it's not something I think they need to really rely on in the transfer portal. So that's my thoughts on the transfer portal. But to end this, I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it again, Hafley's I don't want to live in the transfer portal philosophy, I don't agree with. I've said this for years. I don't agree with it because right now, this team is in crisis. This team is in a bad spot. You went 3-9. And yes, a lot of that was on the offensive line, but there were issues all over the team. As I just said, the special teams was a mess. You need to fix things quickly. You can't just wait to develop. You're in year 4 now. You need to get developed guys in to fix some of the major gaps. As I said, offensive line, secondary. You need to get guys in immediately. So this needs to be a big year for BC staff in the transfer portal. I'm looking at like 5 to 8 guys I think would be good. Getting 5 to 8 guys in the transfer portal at a variety of positions that can give you depth, that can give you starter minutes, or starter snaps, and can be part of your 2 deep. That's what Boston College needs. That's the only chance that BC has to get to that next level, because you're going to get guys that are going to develop. I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these guys like Joseph Griffin and, as I mentioned, like Drew Kendall, I want to see how these guys grow, Donovan Azaraku, but there's still positions and injuries that happen. And BC needs to be ready for that. We can't have a 3rd straight year with, we had 2021 with the quarterback position. You didn't have a backup. This year, you had like the entire offensive line get demolished. We can't just have every year just be the year where we're the walking mash unit. You need to get guys that can play immediately, okay? Now, I'm going to go over some quick comments, and then we're going to head on out, all right? Nick Benoit, one of my favorite commenters on this show. I love Nick. Nick, AJ, do you think the holder change made a significant difference in kicking this year? Hard to believe the difference in this year to last year. I don't know. I didn't see any like weirdness with the snaps. I'll get Mitch on. Maybe we can talk to him about that. Um, Kickers are just weird. They're just weird. One week you get guys like you're gonna get like the Adam Vinatieri's that are just consistent through their whole lives, and Matt Bryant's and the kicker Justin Tucker's. But for every one of those, there's going to be 8 other guys that are great for 2 months and then just fall off a cliff and then they're released. It's just a weird position. And we'll have to wait to see what Connor Litton or Liam Connor does next year. And Chris has a piece of advice to Jeff Hafley. A wise man once said, adapt or die. Chris, you said it great. Well, I'm going to head on out. I appreciate talking to you all. I saw someone tweeted to me yesterday. They said, AJ, I love your podcast, but I can't listen to it anymore because I am done with BC sports. And I get that. But what I'm hoping, here's my goal of this podcast. I'm going to say this every day from here on out, is that this podcast will be some sort of therapy for those moments that suck. Because I know exactly what you guys are going through. I'm not just a reporter robot that's just, spouting out what the coaches say and the stats, because that's freaking boring. That's boring. Like I can go listen to Earl Grant's press conference myself. I'm giving you my gut reactions to things. And I'm going to be right there with you. We'll get through this together, folks. We'll have some fun. We'll get some laughs. I'll probably end up crying at some point too. No, I hope to gosh not. But that's what I'm hoping. Like, I know it stinks. I know the football team has been bad. I know the basketball team is bad. I mean, even the baseball team has been bad. What I want to do is to make this interesting, make this fun, and not a chore to talk about your alma mater. Not make this a chore to root for your team, because we'll look at it from a different perspective. So that's just my thoughts. I love you guys. You guys are the best. This is AJ Black. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. We'll be back in again tomorrow to talk some more basketball. We'll get the Villanova game coming up this weekend, and hopefully more transfer portal news. We're deep. We're elbows deep in it right now. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you again soon. Take care.